Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time. Red-eyed and bushy-tailed after last night, so I appreciate it. I'm going to talk today about moving fast with dbt, and specifically how to keep moving fast between your dbt workflows and your analytics workflows. But first, to tell you a little bit about me, my name's Chris Merrick. I'm CTO, co-founder of Omni Analytics. I've been working in BI and data integration for about 15 years. And Omni's been around for about 2.5 years. One of the great things about starting a BI tool 2.5 years ago is that you get to build for a world where dbt is ubiquitous. So we really found how to make Omni and dbt work well together. But I want to actually tell you a story first. It's a little bit of my backstory, which actually has some overlap with dbt's backstory. So the year's 2015. I've been working at a company called RJ Metrics for about 5 years. And RJ Metrics was a full stack BI tool. And what I mean by that is RJ Metrics tried to do everything in that data stack. We were data integration, pulling data out. RJ Metrics was a full stack BI tool. We were trying to do everything. We were data integration. We were pulling data out of databases and SaaS tools. We were loading that data into a data warehouse that we managed. We were modeling and transforming that data in the data warehouse. And we also built the end user consumption BI tool. And so that was a lot. And around 2015, we kind of started to realize that that was a lot. And the way we realized it, candidly, was we started losing. We had customers churn. We lost competitive deals. And this was a bit of a crisis, but we sort of listened to our customers. And one thing we heard a couple times was, hey, like, your BI tool kind of sucks, but could I keep using the data that you've been pulling in this other competitor's BI tool? And of course, we scoffed at that when we heard it the first time. But once we heard it 4 or 5 times, we said, maybe we should actually just focus on that part of the problem. And so what ended up happening was we kind of took a long look in the mirror, first of all. And coming out on the other side of that, we said, why don't we stop trying to boil the ocean and do all of these things, and instead focus on just this data integration part. What our customers and prospects loved is that we had like very little configuration. Point us to your database, point us to your Salesforce instance, point us to your other SaaS tools. We'll land that data in your data warehouse. And it was simple, and it just worked. And so that eventually led us to split off a separate product and eventually company called Stitch that just focused on what we would now call ELT. But this was obviously a sort of anxious time at RJ Metrics. So we were doing a lot of soul searching, asking a lot of questions, talking to a lot of customers, because like that market didn't exist at the time. There were just starting to be other companies doing this. And we sort of started saying, okay, so like first of all, why is this working now? And that was actually a pretty straightforward answer. Prior to 2013, 14, if you had a data warehouse, it was a $1 million rack in a data center. And if you consumed all the capacity of that rack, you had to wait a few months for the next rack and pay another $1 million. So people were really, really careful about the workload management in those data warehouses. Redshift, BigQuery, Snowflake come along and just completely change that dynamic, right? Now all of a sudden, if I need more capacity in my warehouse, I just spin up an extra node, make it a little bigger, pay a few extra cents an hour, we're good. And so the other question we're starting to wonder here is, okay, if we're going to focus on this ELT thing, like, all right, we're doing the E and the L. What do we do about the T? What do we tell our customers to do about the T? Extract, load, transform. How are they going to transform it, right? And the whole premise is they're going to transform it in the warehouse. But like, how are we going to ask them to do that? Should we solve that problem? Should they solve it? So we talked to more customers, talked to more prospects, and we started hearing another common refrain, which was, oh, actually, we're doing some transformation in our warehouse already. We actually wrote this neat little script to sort of order the SQL transformations to make sure they ran in the right order. And we heard that from a couple of different companies. We said, huh, that's kind of interesting. Like, I wonder if we could just create a tool to do that for people so they don't have to reinvent it themselves. And from that thought, we started thinking, well, the other thing we noticed is people, when they get, especially SaaS data like Salesforce, Stripe, like 90% of the data modeling they're doing is the same, right? It's just, make this usable, make it accurate. There's no proprietary information. And so we started thinking, how do we help analysts sort of build off of each other's work? And this led to the creation of a short-lived open source community called Analyst Collective. And the first project at Analyst Collective was dbt. And so this is my claim to fame here at Coalesce. I made the first commit to dbt in 2016. No applause warranted. I've been told by authorities that none of this code still exists in the repository. I think my lasting contribution to dbt was the name, which I'm very happy with and proud of. But the other thing, the reason I tell you all this is I've been using dbt, and I've heard a lot of people say they've been using dbt a long time here. I've been using it a really long time. And I've seen a lot of different organizations use dbt. I've seen a lot of use cases, team sizes, structures, et cetera. And so universally, it's been a massive step forward in how people think about data modeling. The version control, treating our data models like software assets has been a massive step forward for all of us. But I've also seen some similar stories play out. And especially now that I'm in the BI space, I'm very passionate about this question of how do we work well with dbt? So let me just tell you one of these stories. And this story starts with another side project of mine, CatVids. So CatVids is a side project. You can probably guess what CatVids is. Created by me and my friend Jack right over there. And like any good side project, there was zero expectation of anything. We just wanted to create a website where people could post cat vids. I'm particularly fond of the cat jumping out of the box there. And people can post videos and like them and share them. And even though it's a side project, Jack and I are data nerds, so we said, all right, let's get some data on who's using CatVids, and let's just track a little bit about how many logins, what kind of activities happening on the CatVids website, because we gotta take this side project seriously. So we got an analytics tool, and we built the perfect data model, and that was pretty easy because guess what? CatVids is a very simple site, data model is super clean. Jack and I had 3 dashboards that we wanted to look at. It was pristine. But turns out people really like CatVids, and one of our vids went viral. And we're at this crossroads. We said, all right, the people want cat vids. We have to give them cat vids. So we hired a few other people to join the team and work on this side project. And we also started improving cat vids itself. And so we have all these people on the team, and they're doing their job, right? They're asking questions. How do we make cat vids better? How do we understand user behavior inside of cat vids? And additionally, at the same time, I'm a software engineer. I'm trying to make cat vids better. It's falling over from scale because people are going to watch all these videos. So I had to not only add features, but refactor the data model to make it scalable. And things were going crazy. And all of a sudden, our pristine data model is not so pristine anymore, right? We have a variety of different representations of different metrics. We've got dozens or maybe hundreds of dashboards. Who knows what they're used for? And there's just chaos and logic everywhere. But guess what? Good news. I know how to solve this problem. Boom. Let's just slap some dbt on this, establish a foundation, make our data model nice and clean, and then we can move forward again. We can start making progress. And so that's what we did. And it was actually very successful. It took a little bit of time. But we built a nice, clean set of foundational models. We started establishing kind of best practices about how to use them, and sort of restored order to the chaos. And this worked really well, except the people still wanted their cat vids, and things kept going crazy, right? And so we now had more data model changes, more dashboards, more people joining the team. And this cycle sort of started to repeat itself. And this is the observation that I've had around introducing DBT is this is great. It helps you set a solid foundation. But now you've got a new problem. You have two systems that you have to keep in sync now. So this is where I think people are losing a lot of time and speed. And candidly, there's some scary practices that I've heard about people doing. So let's be specific. What is hard about managing BI and DBT? First thing, change management, right? Change management is hard anywhere, but when you have two disparate systems, change management across those systems is even harder, right? And so the first thing that's hard is, hey, I'm making a change to my DBT model. How do I know what the impact of that change is, right? Is my dashboard going to break? Is it going to look good, except that the data is going to be subtly wrong? So this becomes a real big challenge. And in early CatVid's world, whatever. There's 6 dashboards. We can figure this out. Not a big deal. But when you have dozens or hundreds of dashboards, this could take a 2-line code change into like a multi-hour, multi-day, maybe multi-week process to figure out. And a related problem is, OK, let's say we can figure out what dashboards and reports are being impacted. How do we actually change them and update them and fix them in coordination with the changes we're making at the DBT layer, right? Because if I change them now before the DBT change goes live, then they'll still be broken. And vice versa, they'll be broken until I get to go change them. So how can I actually develop against my development DBT at the same time and then release those changes all in one shot? And then the final challenge, which is a little bit more subtle, is when you have data modeling at 2 different layers, and by the way, even if your BI tool isn't even if you're just writing SQL, if you're writing SQL, you're kind of data modeling, right? That's kind of DBT's whole thing. So you now have to figure out, OK, I need to go solve a new problem, answer a new question with a new data set. Where do I start? Should I go build a DBT model first? Should I just go answer the question first? And this becomes a challenge to just figure out, what's the best practice here, and how do I how do I make sure that I am being a good citizen of my data team and DBT strategy, while also moving quickly and and answering questions for my team. So these are the challenges that I've seen many times, and those are the challenges that we think about a lot as we've been building Omni. So I want to show you a little bit about how we're solving them. So now I will switch over to demo mode. Please pray for me. There we go. Cool. All right. Sorry. All right. So let's just start by making a change in DBT. Let's say that I realize that my sale price is actually being stored in cents, and I want to store it in dollars. Very simple change, obviously. So I'm going to make that change here in DBT, and let's go run it. Oh, forgot to save. All right, the demo gods are with me so far. So now let's first try to answer that first question, the challenge I mentioned, how do I even know what's been impacted? So here in Omni, I'm going to go into my DBT connection. I'm going to open up our handy-dandy content validator, and I'm just going to type the name of the field that I changed. I think it was sale price. Yes, sale price. And that is a field. And let's find out. OK, cool. So here's a list of all the reports that are using that field. There's quite a few. So let's just go pick one and figure out what exactly is happening with this report. Okay, I think it was the query. Yes, here we go. Okay, so this is the chart that is apparently using this field. Let's just validate that. Okay, so sale price sum, yeah, that's obviously using the total price. And yeah, sure enough, like, the CatVids e-commerce store sells millions of dollars in revenue every month, not hundreds of thousands, so this data is definitely wrong. Let's go and fix this report and just validate it against this change in DBT I made. So what I could do here is go into my model. And so in Omni, I can go into branch mode. And in branch mode in Omni, I can make changes in isolation and then commit them all at the same time. So I can make changes to many different reports, charts, pieces of the data model, and merge them together at the same time. And so when I go into branch mode, I can also point Omni to a different DBT schema. So it's actually already pointing me to the development schema. You see there's production and development. So it's already pointing to development. And I can go run. And yes, sure enough, we're back up to tens of millions of dollars in revenue. All is right with the world. So this is obviously a very simple example. Changing a number by a factor of 100, probably not a super breaking or scary change, but you get the idea. If you're changing the name of a field, you're going to see broken reports, right? And you need to go update those reports and make sure that they're fixed before you release that change. So now let's look at the third challenge I mentioned, which is where do I start if I have to answer a new question or analyze a new data set? And I have a sort of strong opinion here, which is you should just answer the question. Some people might disagree with me, but I think generally speaking, to maintain speed, like start by answering the question. So let's just say my marketing team comes to me and says, hey, we're doing a new marketing campaign. We want to send an email to all of our high rollers that are spending a ton of money on our site. Can you create a DBT model for us so that our other system can read that in? So let's go do that. So I'm going to go to my orders data set here, and I am going to, I need to see users. Let's just say I want their ID and their email, and then I want their lifetime spend. Cool. So if I do this, I can also then filter on lifetime spend. So let's apply a filter here, greater than 1,000. Oh, there's my emails, okay. Some other data quality issues going on here, sorry. But maybe this is, I'll get out of my development DBT model. Maybe that's the issue. There we go. Something else is wrong with that development model. So I've got my lifetime spend. I have the analysis that my marketing team has asked me to pull. Very simple. But they asked me to put it into DBT. From Omni, I can actually do that without even leaving the tool. So I can go here. I can convert this to a DBT model. So when I'm clicking around in Omni, we're generating SQL to run against your warehouse. But I can also just convert that into a DBT model. And now I can run this like a DBT model. So you'll see we've added the ref statements where we can to point to other parts of the model. And I can even go here and actually run this. And it's the same, thankfully. And so once I've developed my DBT model, I can go up here and play with the materialization if I wanted to, and get the DBT model exactly how I want it. And then I can just push this to DBT. So I can push to my DBT repo. We will call this the high rollers, appropriate for Vegas. And we'll name a branch high rollers, and I'll push it to DBT. Cool, so it's been pushed to my DBT repository. Click the link, and there you see my new DBT model. So it's just, again, another simple example, but a nice way to consolidate your workflow. Like I said, I have a strong opinion that when you need to answer a question, worry about answering the question first, and then go think about, does this belong in DBT? Does it belong in my BI tool? Or 90% of the time, you're probably just going to throw it away. So don't worry about it. So like I said, we're trying to be really thoughtful as we build our BI tool about how we can use DBT and make DBT users' lives better. I've heard some scary practices about how some of these problems are solved in other organizations, and they're solvable problems. So I hope that's interesting to you, and even if you don't use Omni, I hope you'll think about how to solve these problems in your own tool set. Thank you very much.